There's some of you guys that may have watched the Gordon Ryan versus Josh Saunders fight. If you hadn't, it's on Flow Grappling on YouTube. Go watch it. It's a really good match. It's a technical match. I'm gonna do a little technical breakdown on the end of the match, some things that I'm gonna point out. You may not understand exactly everything right away, but I know you understand the finish. If you have any questions, get with me. We can go over some things in class, but there's a few interesting points that I just like to talk through. So I'm beginning this breakdown right here towards the end after Gordon Ryan initially starts to pass the guard. It's kind of mid-guard pass, but some things in here I want to explain because we went over a few of these in class. Basically the concept of keeping somebody flat while you pass their guard. And I want to give you guys an example, a live example of what I was talking about in class. So let me start this. So we see here a little hip switch as he starts to pass, and you see Josh on bottom here bring his knee to his elbow and he frames up. But you also see Josh is flat on his back. One reason that is see the structure of Gordon's body on top. His knees are in, his feet are relatively close to his body, his hands are engaged, his head is over. He's almost TP'd on the guy's body. And one of the things I discussed in class is being so close to somebody where it's really tough for them to turn into you and putting some type of base on them to keep them flat, because what that does is put somebody's body flexion in a position where their defenses are significantly weaker than if they're able to get on their side, establish a frame, and get back to a guard. Notice Josh's... Well, you'll see it here in a minute where Josh has his foot rested on his knee. So you see him to proceed in a little bit of a hand battle here. He's trying to frame to turn to get some type of guard. One thing that Gordon has from the top here, he has a chance to attack the foot. He also has chances to get into a leg lace position, which back into leg attacks. And this is where I say, he's really disciplined to his craft, because an average grappler I would see would take a risk and jump on some of these alternative submissions that may look fancy or more opportunistic, but he's looking for high percentage positions before he looks for submissions. This goes into establishing discipline as a jiu-jitsu player and not somebody that just jumps on every opportunity that comes about. So it's a longer game rather than a shorter game. Now we see the pins to start, and you'll see Gordon lift up on the head right here. He lifts up on the head because he doesn't mind him turning in at this point. We also discussed this in class, is going to the north-south position and establishing the north-south Kimura, which when Gordon makes the transition, Josh comes up underneath. I think he misses the arm. I think he's actually looking for the Kimura position here, but it's just a slight miscalculation. Josh puts his arm in a different spot. So we'll play this through as he turns in right here. He gets beat on the arm, and you see Gordon reach between the legs to establish like the Reaper position, the honey hole position. So he's jumping on the leg attacks. He no longer has an upper body connection. He's going for the lower body connection. There's a few things in this position that come up because in one of my recent tournaments, I was put in this position. I actually put myself here, and I put myself here by accident. But we'll let this play through. You see Gordon's leg come into the middle. Right there where Josh's top elbow is. I'll move it forward a little bit. He's resting on his bottom elbow. And I've talked about this in class before, where you get on your bottom elbow, and in some of the things that you're doing with your elbow posted onto the floor can actually hinder your movement. I don't think it would have hindered his movement, Josh's movement here, but he didn't move. He didn't frame with his top hand. I think he should have framed and moved backwards out of the position. And like I said, we see him get off his elbow here, but his top arm start to come up. He never really establishes a frame. A frame is okay there at the shoulder, but a better frame would have been more in front of the shoulder and to the neck position, and then post up on your bottom elbow and start to move out of the position. Your other options are try to turn back in, but you give him your legs. If you turn away, you give up your back, which is, when I say is a mistake that I made in one of my recent tournaments. I made the mistake of not framing and turning my back and got my back taken off of that move right there. So it just goes into experience and also your decision making. So let's keep that moving. Now we see the battle. Where's Josh now? He's flat. Gordon doesn't want him to move forward. He doesn't want to roll into the leg attacks. He wants to move back to his hip and keep a strong connection. The connection that Gordon is creating here is to pin. His whole objective through this series is to keep him pinned in positions to where he doesn't move as well as he could if he gets his hips off the mat. But you miss his opportunity to move his hips. So now he's getting in deeper. He's trying to get his hips up, and see the hands here? This is another thing I talk about. It's not that he's defending bad. It's just one thing I tell you guys when you're first starting off is if you're fighting the legs is to keep your hands off the mat. The reason his hands are on the mat is because he wants to pick his hips up, and Gordon is giving him a lot of pressure to pin his hip with his leg entanglement. Because one of the escapes here is to get your hips up, drive into the person to get the leg out. There's an enormous amount of pressure there. You need to really feel it before you really have an understanding of what's going on. And we see Josh here begin to try and pick the hips up. Gordon kind of leans to his right and kind of negates his hips coming up. He's still working on pinning the hips to solidify the position. Now Gordon is looking for the inside heel hook. He has the attack, so you see him lean to the side. Notice in the position how both guys' knees are bent. There's a little bit more than a 90-degree bend, somewhere around a 90-degree bend in there. And shelving the legs and keeping the legs bent helps maintain a better position for attacks. It's not like you can get finishes, with the outside 90. But let's keep it moving. Now here is one of the things that I like is because Josh is looking to escape and get the leg out. That's why he's looking to turn away. And Gordon goes to the top side. He drags the leg across the body and starts to attack the outside heel hook. This is one of my more favorite attacks because it's a little stint off of what I call the Sambo knot, and it attacks the outside heel hook. It's not that popular in jiu-jitsu. I don't think it's that popular in jiu-jitsu. And as you heard me say last week, we like to attack with things that don't really seem normal to other people because, one, they don't know how to defend it, and their reactions are a little bit slower than a normal person, which should make your timing better and make your submission attacks more efficient. And as we see the finish right here, he's pinning Josh's hip. See Gordon's bottom knee, how it's facing down towards the mat. He's forcing that knee down towards the mat. He also has the figure 4 in here. His top leg is between Josh's legs, and he's preventing Josh from turning or trying to roll as an escape. If he catches Josh's top hip, it's going to make it hard for him to defend that and twist his hips in either direction, face down, whatever it may be, pitch his leg through. And you don't really see Gordon's hips come up in the finish a whole lot. There's not really a big need in it for an outside heel hook. Outside heel hooks are fun. Don't think that they're not fun, and don't think that you always have to do the inside heel hook to have a good break. So let me move backwards to that. Here he's passing over the leg. Look at the position of the foot. When he passes that leg to the top, he's also putting a bend in that leg, and he's keeping the leg attached to his body. He's not dragging that leg over by trying to lift the leg up. He's trying to keep a body connection here and look for the heel exposure as he gets it over to the other side of his body. We're looking for that immediate heel exposure. One of the things I talk about in class is the chest positions. Gordon's chest is straight up. Josh's is 90 degrees rotated back towards the camera. And that's one of the things that's going to give you heel exposure, or better heel exposure, is the general direction of the chest. If that's one thing you want to cue in on, as opposed to watching for the knee position or the actual position of the heels. You see him expose the heel by trapping the toes there, and gets a really nice break on there. A lot of pressure on the break. But some of the positions there, especially on the guard pass, the pinning, keeping him flat, moving into the leg attack position, moving from upper body control to bottom or lower body control, and also pinning the hips to advance on position. It's much easier to do when somebody does not frame or try to move their hips away on the early side. But I hope you enjoyed the breakdown. That's all I got. I'll see you guys in class the next time.